Please subscribe, hit the like button, and let us know in the comments where you are watching from. My name is Jennifer. I trusted my husband completely for 17 years. His late-night phone calls seemed normal business from overseas, clients in different time zones. Our 14-year-old daughter Emma accidentally sent me a voice recording one Tuesday morning, 3 minutes, that unraveled everything I thought I knew. The recording arrived at 7:43 in the morning. I was pouring coffee when my phone chimed with a message from Emma. She'd already left for school, catching the early bus for choir practice. The message said, "Mom, sorry, wrong person," followed by a string of panicked emojis. Attached was an audio file, 3 minutes and 17 seconds long. I almost deleted it, almost respected what was clearly an accident, but something made me hesitate. Thumb hovering over the trash icon. Emma never sent me recordings, never forwarded anything by mistake. She was meticulous with her phone, more careful than most adults I knew. I pressed play, static first, then my husband David's voice, low and intimate. The tone stopped my breath. Not his work voice, not the efficient professional cadence he used for business calls. This was softer, warmer, the way he used to speak to me in our early years, before careers and mortgages and the comfortable routine of a long marriage smoothed the edges of everything. He was talking to someone, a woman. Her laughter came through faintly in the background, and David responded with something I couldn't quite hear. Then clearer, plans for Thursday, a hotel room 314. He'd confirmed the reservation under a different name. My hand shook, coffee forgotten. I replayed it, then again, trying to find an innocent explanation. A business meeting. But why a hotel room? Why that tone? Why the fake name? The recording ended abruptly, cut off mid. I stared at my phone screen, watching my reflection in the black glass. The kitchen felt too bright suddenly, too normal. Sunlight streamed through windows I'd cleaned last weekend. The calendar on the wall showed Emma's orthodontist appointment, my book club meeting, and David's notation for a late conference call on Thursday night. Thursday room 3-14. I called Emma. She answered after 2 rings, whispered, and rushed. She was sorry, so sorry. She'd found Dad's phone on the kitchen counter this morning while he was in the shower. It had been unlocked, and there was a recording app opened with the file ready to send. She'd been curious, pressed send to herself, then panicked when she realized what it was and tried to delete it from her phone. But it went to me instead. My daughter had heard it first, understood before I did. I asked her if she was okay, if we'd talk about it later. She said yes, but her voice carried weight I'd never heard before. Childhood cracking, innocence interrupted by adult betrayals. David left for work at his usual time, kissed my cheek in the hallway, said something about a busy day, meetings until 7. I watched him go, briefcase in hand, everything about him familiar and suddenly foreign. 20 years together, 17 married, 1 daughter, a mortgage on a house I'd decorated with care, family vacations and shared friends, and a life I'd thought was solid. How long had this been happening? The question sat in my chest like a stone. I went through the motions of my day, showered, dressed, drove to my office at the consulting firm where I managed client accounts, but my mind stayed in that recording, replaying his tone, the woman's laugh, the easy intimacy that spoke of repetition, of familiarity, of something much worse than a one-time mistake. At lunch, I couldn't eat. I pulled up our phone records instead. Months of bills, patterns I'd never scrutinized before. Late-night calls, always to the same number, always lasting between 2 and 15 minutes, going back almost a year. A year of lies, a year of late-night calls I'd ignored, trusted, accepted as work because he'd told me they were work and I'd believed him. I'd hired a private investigator that afternoon. Her name was Patricia Reeves, recommended by a divorced attorney I'd found through a discreet internet search. Patricia had steel gray hair and eyes that had seen too many versions of this story. She listened without judgment as I played the recording, showed her the phone records, and explained the hotel reservation, phoned our Thursday. She said she'd have preliminary information by Friday. Thursday would be documented in full if I wanted it. Photos, video, everything I'd need for divorce proceedings, or simply for my own clarity. I said yes to everything. I needed to know, needed to see the full picture before I decided how to demolish it. That evening, David came home at 7:30, apologetic about missing dinner. He looked tired, stressed, I'd made pasta, his favorite. We sat across from each other at the table we'd bought together 9 years ago. And I watched him eat while my own food grew cold on the plate. Emma joined us halfway through. She barely looked at her father. David noticed, asked if she was feeling okay. She said fine, just tired. The lie sat between Fanya's, like a third person at the table. After dinner, David retreated to his office for another call. I stood in the hallway, listening to his muffled voice through the door. That same tone, warm, intimate. I checked the clock, checked our phone records, the same number he'd called countless times before. I went through his office the next morning after he left for work, carefully, leaving everything exactly as I found it. His laptop was password protected, but his desk drawers weren't. Inside, I found receipts, restaurants I'd never been to, jewelry purchases I'd never received, hotel charges from the past 8 months. All in cities where David claimed to have solo business trips. One receipt stood out, a necklace from an upscale boutique downtown, purchased 3 months ago, $1,800. I'd never seen it. I took a photo of every receipt, every credit card statement, every piece of evidence his carelessness had left behind, in the back of the bottom drawer. Hidden under old tax documents, I found something else, a burner phone, cheap, prepaid, the kind you buy at convenience stores for cash. I turned it on with trembling hands. No password. He hadn't expected anyone to find it. The messages told the story. His regular phone records had started. Texts to V going back 14 months. Not a year. 14 months. Long before the hotel reservations. Long before the jewelry. This had been building slowly, carefully, hidden in plain sight while I cooked dinners and managed our household and believed we were fine. The messages were explicit. Plans, photos, promises about leaving me, getting divorced, and starting fresh together. David had told her he was waiting for the right time, that our daughter needed stability, that he'd tell me soon, soon, always soon. For 14 months, he'd been telling this woman soon. I photographed everything, every message, every photo, every promise he'd made to someone who wasn't his wife. Thursday afternoon, Patricia called. She was in position outside the Hotwachinki NG, the entrance. David had arrived at 3:30, hours before his supposed late meeting. A woman met him in the lobby. Tall, dark hair, younger than me by at least a decade. They'd gone up to room 314 together. Patricia asked if I wanted her to continue surveillance. I said yes, document everything. I'd meet her tomorrow to review the evidence. I picked up Emma from school that afternoon, drove her to get ice cream, and told her the truth. Her father was having an affair. I'd found evidence. I was going to handle it. She cried in the passenger seat of my car, angry and heartbroken and asking questions I couldn't fully answer. Why? How long? Did he love us at all? I didn't know, but I was going to find out, and then I was going to make sure he understood exactly what he'd destroyed. Patricia's report arrived Friday morning via encrypted email. Photos, timestamps, video clips. David and the woman Vanessa Patricia had confirmed through her license plate, entering the hotel at 3:40, enter Daving at 6:30. 2 hours and 43 minutes. They'd stopped at the hotel bar afterward, sat close, touched frequently, kissed in the parking lot before separating to their cars. The documentation was thorough, clinical, devastating. Patricia had included Vanessa's full background check. Vanessa Chen, 32 years old, marketing executive at a firm that partnered with David's company. They'd met at a professional conference 18 months ago. Their relationship had begun as an emotional affair and progressed to physical after 4 months. Patricia had also uncovered something I hadn't known to look for. David had opened a separate bank account 8 months ago. I wasn't listed as a He'd been transferring money steadily, $3,000 here, $5,000 there. The account currently holds $47,000. Holdsy was taken from our joint savings, moved quietly, over months. He was building an exit fund, preparing to leave. The waiting for the right time he'd promised Vanessa wasn't about protecting Emma. It was about protecting himself, securing finances before I could freeze accounts or file for divorce. I met with 2 attorneys that week. The first was sympathetic but cautious. Divorce would be messy. Asset division. She recommended mediation, trying to reach an amicable settlement. The second attorney, Marcus Grant, had a different approach. He looked at Patricia's evidence, the hidden account, the proof of infidelity, and saw opportunities. We could freeze his accounts, file for divorce citing adultery, which still mattered in our state, pursue full custody of Emma, given his deception, take the house, the majority of assets, and make him pay for choosing to dismantle our family. I chose Marcus. We planned carefully, filed paperwork on a Monday morning when David was at work, froze the hidden account, served him with divorce papers at his office at 11:30, ensuring maximum witnesses and minimum privacy. Marcus had advised making it public. People like David, who built their lives on appearances and professional reputations, feared public exposure more than legal consequences. The affair with a junior colleague at a partner company was a fireable offense. The hidden money was financial fraud, and the documentation was irrefutable. But I wanted more than a divorce, more than asset division and custody arrangements. I wanted him to feel the same shock I'd felt listening to that recording, the same betrayal Emma had felt, overhearing her father's intimate plans with another woman. So I did something Marcus hadn't advised but didn't explicitly forbid. I created a presentation, professional, polished, comprehensive, photos from Patricia's surveillance, screenshots of the burner phone messages, bank statements showing the hidden transfers, a timeline of the affair mapped against family events, 13th birthday, our anniversary, Christmas morning, where we'd opened presents as a family, while David texted Vanessa from the bathroom. I sent it to everyone: David's partners at work, our mutual friends, his family, my family, the board of directors at Vanessa's company. Every email address I could find was connected to his professional and personal life. Subject line: The Real David Morrison. I pressed send on Tuesday evening. Then, I waited. David came home one Wednesday at 2 in the afternoon. I'd taken the week off work. Emma was at school. I was alone in the house when his car screeched into the driveway, and he burst through the door with his face red and eyeshadow shaking. He screamed. He asked what I'd done. How could I humiliate him like this, destroy his career, ruin his reputation over a private matter? I sat on the sofa in our living room, perfectly calm, and asked him which part was private: the affair itself, the hidden money, the burner phone, the 14 months of lying, the promises he'd made to Vanessa about leaving us. His anger crumbled. He stammered explanations that weren't explanations. He'd been confused, going through a crisis. Vanessa had pursued him. It didn't mean anything. I asked if the $1,800 necklace, $1,800 or $7,000 mean anything, if telling another woman he loved her while sleeping beside me meant anything. He had no answers, just excuses, just the flailing justifications of someone caught, absolutely, with no room for denial or negotiation. I told him I wanted him out today. Now, he'd take his clothes, his personal items, and nothing else. The house was in my name, something he'd insisted on during purchase for tax reasons, a decision that now protected me completely. I'd already changed the locks. His keys wouldn't work. He asked about Emma, about visitation, about his rights as a father. I showed him the custody filing. Marcus had built a strong case: David's deception, his financial fraud, his prioritization of an affair over family stability. We were seeking primary custody with supervised visitation until Emma decided she wanted to see him. Emma had already decided. She'd told me that morning she didn't want to see her father. Maybe someday, but not now. Not until he could explain why his lies were worth more than his daughter's trust. David's face went pale. He asked about his job, his career. I told him that was his problem. I hadn't contacted his employer, but our friends had. The presentation had spread. His partners had seen it. Vanessa's company had seen it. The professional consequences were his to manage. Later, I learned he'd been placed on administrative leave. Vanessa had been fired immediately for inappropriate conduct with a partner company representative. Topofna didn't tolerate affairs that created conflicts of interest, especially when documented so thoroughly. David tried one more angle, threatened to fight the divorce, to drag it out, to make it expensive and painful. Marcus had anticipated this. He arrived at the house within 20 minutes of my call, carrying additional documentation, evidence that David had also been claiming false business expenses, using company funds for personal hotel stays. The company could press charges if it wanted to. David's threats evaded. He took his clothes, packed his car, left without looking back. That evening, Emma and I ordered pizza, sat together on the sofa, cried and talked, and began the long process of understanding that families break, that people fail you, that trust once shattered takes years to rebuild, if it rebuilds at all. But we had each other, and we had the truth, and that was more than we'd had 3 days ago when lies still held our life together. The divorce was finalized 4 months later. I got everything I'd asked for: the house, primary custody, 70% of our joint assets. David was required to pay child support and maintain Emma's health insurance. The hidden $47,000 was returned to our joint account, then split according to the settlement, minus penalties for financial fraud. David moved across the state, started a new job with a smaller company, his reputation damaged enough that his previous upward trajectory had stalled. Vanessa moved as well, different city, different industry. Their relationship ended within weeks of everything going public. Turns out, affairs built on deception don't survive exposure. Emma started therapy, so did I. We talked about trust, about how adults fail sometimes, about the difference between someone's choices and your worth. She's 15 now, doing well in school, seeing her father occasionally for supervised dinners. Maybe someday they'll rebuild something, maybe not. That's her choice to make when she's ready. I kept working, got promoted 6 months after the divorce, took Emma on a trip to Europe last summer, just the two of us, building new memories in places David had never been. Our house feels lighter now, smaller with just two of us, but cleaner somehow. No more lies hiding in corners, no more phone calls I'm supposed to ignore. The recording Emma accidentally sent me was 3 minutes and 17 seconds long. Such a small thing, a mistake, but it gave me back my agency, my ability to act instead of being acted upon. Without it, I might have spent years more in ignorance while David prepared his exit, while our assets disappeared, while he built a life with someone else on the foundation of our marriage. Sometimes, I wonder what would have happened if Emma hadn't found that phone, if he'd been more careful, if I'd stayed oblivious while he executed his plan on his timeline, taking everything he wanted and leaving me to pick up pieces I didn't know were breaking. But she did find it, and I did act, and the pieces I had to pick up were at least honest pieces, sharp and real instead of the comfortable lies I'd been living inside. To everyone listening, everyone who's ever felt that instinct that something's wrong but talked yourself out of it, trust yourself, investigate, document, and when you find the truth, don't let shame or embarrassment or fear of judgment stop you from acting on it. David thought he could control the narrative, manage the timing, leave on his terms. Instead, he learned that betrayal has consequences, that lies eventually, that the end surfaces might be smarter, stronger, and more prepared than you ever anticipated. My daughter taught me that. At 14, she dared to share something with our family. She chose truth over comfort, and because of her, we survived with our dignity intact. Have you ever discovered a betrayal by accident, a message meant for someone else, a recording you weren't supposed to hear? How did you respond? Share your story in the comments. And if this resonated with you, if you've ever faced the choice between comfortable lies and hard truths, subscribe. These stories matter. They remind us that we're not alone in betrayal, that recovery is possible. That is the truth, however painful. That is always better than living in someone else's carefully constructed fiction. The recording was 3 minutes long, but it gave me back my entire life.